Yo, we finally got to speak to Miami's new coordinators today, offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator. And when DC Lance Dawson, I got to do that over again. Hold on. In 3, 2, and 1. We finally got to speak to the new football coordinators for the Miami Hurricanes today. And I got to tell you, when DC Lance Guidry opened by saying, y'all are getting a real Cajun right here, that's the moment I realized we're in for a really fun season of coverage.
You are Locked On Canes, your daily podcast on the Miami Hurricanes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I am Alex Donno, your host. I'm a University of Miami alumnus, longtime South Florida sports radio vet, and contributor to allhurricanes.com. And thank you so much for making Locked On Canes your first listen today. We're available free wherever you get your podcasts and available free on YouTube. So we met both coordinators today, a couple of Cajuns, Shannon Dawson, the offensive coordinator, Lance Guidry, the real Cajun, he said, the defensive coordinator, and had another day of practice today, spring practice day 2 on Tuesday morning. And I'll tell you, a guy that's turning heads, Kaleb Spender, the true freshman safety, was an under-the-radar 3-star guy out of Virginia who was an Oklahoma commit that Miami was able to flip back in late October. He's looking good so far. I will caution, though, anyone, let me remind you, 2 days of spring practice in, pads have not come on yet, okay? And that was something that we, the media, were reminded of repeatedly by Dawson, the OC, Guidry, the defensive coordinator. There's only so much we can assess right now until the pads come on. But we're liking what we're seeing physicality-wise from Kaleb Spender. And Lance Guidry, the DC, did say that he's watched Spencer's tape and that he's a big hitter. That's how he described Spender as a big hitter. On the offensive side of the football, probably the biggest note of the day is that Javion Cohen is with the team now. He went through his first official spring practice today. He had to miss the Saturday debut practice. It was an official excused absence for him. He was part of a special symposium that they were holding at the NFL Combine in Indianapolis, geared to players, underclassmen who are expected to be drafted in the future. So that was an excused absence of his. Javion Cohen is now back. You know who else is back? By popular demand, we got Bruce Warner with us. They appreciate, we call him the truth teller, Bruce Warner. Bruce, how you been, sir?
What did you call me?
The truth teller.
You said by popular demand, by whom? Come on.
Believe it or not, you got really good reviews. We had you on last Tuesday. We're talking about making this a regular Tuesday thing now because Bruce Warner, especially, they just love the hat that you wear. And the fact that you still have the tag on it, which people found to be kind of funny.
That's my Newark background. You don't take tags off.
I thought maybe you were going to return it if they don't win more than 5 games this year. Just take it back.
No, I'm not going to do that. I mean, I got a bunch of hats, and I got a lot of things. In fact, when there's something funny going off top, my wife yelled at me yesterday. She said, every time I come in this house, you got orange and green on. I said, fine, tomorrow I'll wear green and orange.
My wife has come to accept the fact that 80% of the clothes that I own have a U on it somewhere. That most of my clothes, as I imagine is the case with you as well, are Miami Hurricanes related. So something that, Bruce, became official since the last time that you and I spoke, which was 1 week ago, Jason Taylor is still on the staff and he's promoted. He's now a defensive line coach. Now, the last time you and I talked, I was a little bit concerned that he was going to end up with the Miami Dolphins or in the NFL because there were reports about NFL interest with JT. How big do you think it's been that, or how big will it be that Cristobal was able to lock him down on this Miami staff?
I think it's really big. I mean, I saw a few articles this week about him meeting with these recruits, these D lineman recruits. Look at the credibility he's got.
Yeah,
he's a Hall of Famer, for God's sakes. I mean, my God, sure, it's big. You know, I knew last year, and I knew in the offseason, not that I tell everybody, but he was not going to go back to the Dolphins. Why would Mario let him come next year if his goal was to go to the Dolphins? I don't think he would have done that. He's not that kind of a person. So right. I think he's done with the Dolphins. I mean, that was his team, but he really wants to help Mario. And that's a major coup because, as I said last week to the listeners and the viewers, that the D-line needs to get some help. They're just not big and strong and tough enough yet. Not that he's a D tackle, he's a D end, but still, the credibility with him being there has a lot to do with what's going to happen in the future with this team.
Yeah, and Lance Guidry, the defensive coordinator, did talk a little bit about Jason Taylor today, how he's just very impressed, not only with his teaching ability. I was going to say teachability, but that would probably be the opposite. With his teaching ability, he was impressed with his patience, but he said that JT knows when to kind of turn it up when it's like he knows how to get on some guys when you need to get on them. So I guess he's like really good at kind of reading the vibes from his defensive line. And Bruce, you know, we've both been around Jason Taylor a lot over the years. And, you know, he spent plenty of time coaching in the high school ranks as well at St. Thomas Aquinas.
Right.
He loves teaching. Like, he's not one of those ex-pro athletes who just kind of wants to kick his feet up and get, you know, an easy payday here and there. Like, Jason Taylor is willing to put the work in. Yeah,
well, he had to do that when he was at Akron. Not a big guy. He was skinny but tall, but still he made himself the best he could possibly be, and he was damn good. That's why he's in the Hall of Fame. So, of course, he's going to show patience. He's still very young. He can relate to these kids, and they all know who he is. So that's really good. Now, a lot of the kids that are at Miami now, if you brought in Russell Maryland, they might not know who he was, you know, so he's very relevant, especially here in South Florida. So a great decision by everybody. But I'm happy for him that he's got this job and he got promoted.
Yeah. You know, something that stuck out to me with Shannon Dawson, the offensive coordinator, one of the reporters there asked him about the air raid offense, right? And kind of how flexible he is on running the football. And he gave a cool quote to that where he said, as far as I'm concerned, the air raid doesn't exist anymore. He said, like, they've had to evolve it so much. So obviously the roots and principles are still there. You know, Dawson learned from Hal Mummy, who's the godfather of the air raid. And he's worked along with, you know, Mummy disciple Dana Holgerson has, you know, been Dawson's boss in most of the stops that he's been. So obviously the roots and principles are still there, but he doesn't even really call it an air raid anymore, Bruce. Like, he talked about adapting to the personnel. He talked about the importance of having a strong running game, because guess what? If you can run the football, it makes it a lot easier to throw the football too.
How about he had a conversation or 2 or 3 or 10 with Mario Cristobal? That's another reason why that's not going to be the air raid anymore. Come on. You think he's going to stand there and tell Mario, I'm going to just air it out all the time and Mario hire him? No, this is part and parcel of what was going on in the background. He knows damn well he can't throw the ball 80% of the time. So, you know, but I heard some comments. I read some comments about people not so sold on Van Dyke. And they were saying, well, he can't really run the ball. So they want someone who could run and pass, which seems to be a lot of the younger kids today. But what does he have to run for? If the offensive line is much improved, he's got a stable of running backs. Yeah, we don't know about Citizen yet, but still. And the receivers are going to be good. I'm not that concerned about it. Yeah, we don't have like the true Blazer. Well, we have the Blazer and Ray, but he's not that tall. But again, they're going to run the ball enough with the skill people. As long as the offensive line is working, I said to you last week, I'm not concerned in the least. I'm not saying they're going to win 12 games, because now that I'm seeing who's healthy, like Rivers, and they have other guys in the pack that are in the front 7 that are going to play. The only thing they need to do is learn how to play together.
Right.
And so this whole spring is about playing together, and it's not about individuals blocking. Like, they do a lot of individual things, but the spring practices, off-season workouts, and definitely the fall practice is for those guys to play in unison, to know who's got the blitz guy, who's got this, calling out the plays, and making sure you trust the guy next to you. And so that's going to take time. I love the guys they have, and I wish they had another 2 or 3 big dudes. But I said Inez Cooper is going to be – he's big. They have a massive offensive line. So I'm not that worried about it. I'm just more concerned about playing together. And I think this offense is going to explode next year.
I want to talk when we come back a little bit more about TVD. And also, I want Bruce's take, because someone asked me this question the other day, how we're going to measure the success or lack thereof of Miami's new coordinator. So I would love Bruce Warner's take on that. Keep it locked right here to Locked On Canes. Guys, if you're looking for a delicious treat, but you don't want all the fat and calories, you got to try a Built Bar. That's my breakfast every morning. We just got through the holidays. My goal has been to eat a little healthier this year. If you're like me, where you want to eat healthier, but you don't want to compromise taste, I've got just the thing for you. You've got to try Built. With Built, healthy is actually tasty. Seriously, they're so delicious. You won't think that they're good for you, but they are. What makes Built Bars so good tasting? Well, for starters, they're covered in 100% real chocolate. They come in unbelievable flavors like churro, peanut butter brownie, coconut almond. And I'm not sure how Built does it, but these bars taste like a candy bar while maintaining amazing macros. What's even better is that they are healthy. Only 130 calories, only 4 grams of sugar, and a whopping 17 grams of protein. Now you don't have to wait around to get a box. You can get them at your local Walmart or Sam's Club. That's right. Head into your nearest Walmart or Sam's Club today. Grab a 13-bar box or a 4-bar box of hit flavors like brownie batter and churro. And yes, you can still order Built Bars online at built.com with our promo code LOCKEDON15 for 15% off. And you can thank me later because I love me some Built Bars. Thank you so much for making Locked On Canes your first listen today. We're available free wherever you get your podcasts and available free on YouTube. Alex Donno alongside Bruce Warner. So, Bruce, I was doing some Q&A in the mailbag yesterday, and someone asked me how we're going to measure the success of Miami's new coordinators at the end of the season. I gave kind of a smart-ass answer, right, that I want to see more points scored and fewer points given up. But how do you think we're going to be able to measure at the end of next year the job that Shannon Dawson and Lance Guidry have done?
That's a tough question. And you know why? Because Mario is going to take all the heat or get all the praise. Maybe he'll get praise for hiring those guys, or maybe he'll get ripped for hiring those guys. But I think he is the focal point of everybody, not these coordinators by themselves, unless we wind up another Gaddis. But I don't see that happen. That I don't see, because look at the difference in the offensive line. They were horrible last year, and they were banged up, and they stunk. So that's a hard thing to measure. But I think defensively, you'll see different schemes. I don't think you'll see as many breakdowns in coverage. I mean, you're talking about Steele, but he just seemed very set in his ways. And as we said last week, how the hell? I don't know which games it was. I forgot already. But there was 2 games where they had 6 bombs against them in a 2-game span, 4 against one and 2 against the other.
It was Middle Tennessee and North Carolina.
How do you do that? Oh my goodness. So yeah, and the lack of adjustments. I just thought last year was absolute crap. It's mind-boggling to think that we were so jacked up last year at this time, and to go through a season like that. I don't want to ever see that again, and I don't think it's going to happen again. Apparently, and I think maybe I heard it from you, that some of these guys are bigger and they're stronger and they look good. That Kaleb Spender kid, you said something about off the radar or under the radar. Oklahoma wanted him. I think he had going to commit to Oklahoma. So, it might not be somebody that they looked at during the season, but once Oklahoma kind of blew him off, he came straight to Miami and they took him. He's got to be a hitter. Whether he can cover or not, I don't know.
Right, exactly. And that was something that, and both coordinators stressed this, that they can only draw so many conclusions because we haven't put pads on yet, right? And that was something, because Lance Guidry, he was starting to praise Kaleb Spender. Somebody asked him specifically about Spencer, so he didn't single him out, but he did start to praise Spencer. And he pointed out, though, we're really going to find out when the pads come on, because he mentioned some of these players are going to look like all-stars without the pads on. And then when the pads come on, you're going to see certain players that maybe didn't stand out so much without pads. Are going to start to stand out with the pads on. And he even he tempered the expectations a little bit with Kam Kinchens. Not that he doesn't expect Kinchens to be great, but that was the first question that I asked him right out of the gates, his impressions on Kam Kinchens so far. And he praised his leadership and his intelligence, but also said, we're going to see more of that leadership develop once he gets more comfortable in the defense, because just like everyone else, he's learning that new defense. So we're going to kind of see how he adapts to that. But obviously Kinchens was an All-American last year, and this is going to be a safety-friendly defense because Lance Guidry's background is coaching safeties. So I'm sure Kam is going to end up, given just how intelligent he is, Bruce, and how hard he works, I'm sure Kam is going to develop really well in this new D.
Well, I'm sure him and Guidry and his position coach have looked at the film, because as great as he was last year, he missed, and he misread, and he over pursued on a lot of plays and was in the wrong place at the wrong time. So I understand. I have no problem with that, but I'm sure they're going to work with him and correct some of these mistakes. You could be a leader all you want, but if you're not getting your job done, you're on the sidelines. I'm still very curious about James Williams. I know he's not there now. But I just don't see where he has the instincts to play safety. I'm sorry. That's just my opinion. And I don't know. I'm not saying I'm right or I'm wrong, but I haven't seen much from him. You know, I could see if he made a mistake or two, but then he made some outstanding plays. Like Ed Reed used to do, or Sean Taylor used to do. But I haven't seen much in the positive. The interceptions that he had were thrown right into his hands.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, you know, we spoke a couple of Fridays ago with one of the number crunchers, a Pro Football Focus analyst, because this analyst graded Kam Kinchens. Kinchens we know is great, but he determined James Williams is one of the top 5 best returning safeties next year in college football, and he even said and he's going strictly by numbers, right? A lot of Miami fans were like, what are you talking about, man? Like, Miami fans were thinking he overrated our guy, which was interesting to him. But his point was that he admits James had a pretty poor tackling grade last year. I'd like to hope that a lot of that had to do with him playing through a shoulder injury for much of the year, and hopefully he rounds that part out of his game a little bit. But he talked about Williams having among the most elite pass coverage grades in the entire country. And that's why he did, and also add in James's size and his stature. That's why he considers James to be one of the elite safeties in the country. And of course, we're rooting for him to put it all together this year. So he's got to tackle more consistently is where he's got to round out his game.
Shoulder injury's got to be big, because I won't remember a lot of an arm tackler, and you got to knock people out, and he's not doing it. He's an arm. He's grabbing and reaching, and so we'll see. Look, I'm glad he's on our team, but I hope he gets better. You asked me last week, the last question. I think there's a major upside for this program. I don't know what the record will be this year, but if he keeps recruiting like this and they develop players, I don't see any reason why we're not contending every season for the ACC title, getting either a major bowl game or we're in the playoffs, because there's just too much of an upside with these kids. But, the recruiting, they still have to get those receivers. I know they're after Smith. Yeah. I think Trader's probably going to come here. But if they can get those guys done and they get D tackles, I think they're going to be okay. I just do. What were you going to ask? What was the question you were going to ask me? Oh, about the coordinators. I like both. I like both of them. Right now, on paper, I like both of them. But again, a lot of this stuff that we're going to see on offense is going to predicate on the offensive line, which is Maribel. It's not the coordinator. And if that offensive line is healthy and they're knocking people around, I don't see anybody going to stop the offense unless TVD gets hurt, which you asked me about him as well. I just don't see it. And defensively, I do see they're going to be better, I think, scheme-wise, but they don't have the real headbangers up front, the run stuffers. I'm hoping that our middle linebacker, I hope Marigoa could compete. I like the Bryant kid, but he's still a kid. The other guy, Marigoa's got some experience playing out, at Washington State. So I'm hoping he turns it around, because we get Kaleb Johnson last year from UCLA. He was average at best.
It was a big that was one of the biggest. I mean, sometimes when I hype guys up, I'm right about it, but I also admit when I'm wrong, because I hyped Kaleb Johnson up so much last year when he transferred. Really nice dude, but it just it didn't go the way I thought it would go with him.
Yeah, it didn't. A lot of it didn't go. Yet we got lucky with Colby Young out of left field.
Yes. Yeah, that one I did call, Bruce. That one I did call it. People didn't want to listen. JUCO guy, how good? I told you guys, watch out for Colby Young. Hopefully, and Colby Young, by the way, he's looking good so far. 2 practices in, and he looks a little leaner, maybe a little quicker even than he was last year. So that could end up being a recipe for success.
Saw that. I think he ran like a 4.47 or a 4, whatever it was. It was in the mid 4.5 something or other. And that's much faster than last year. And I know he needed to do that because he's got to get deep. He's one of the guys that has to get down the field and draw a safety with him so they could do all that underneath stuff if they have to. That's a major thing. It sounds like a little nothing that he lost a little weight. It's a big deal. It's a very big deal, you know?
Yeah. And if you were watching, some people, we were taking videos of Kevin Beard at the first practice on Saturday. And by the way, I love watching KB work, Bruce, because he's out, he's going through the drills as if he's on the team like that. He is not just do what I say, do as I do, because he demonstrates everything. He was working up a sweat, but he kept talking about, we're going to go vertical. We're going to go vertical. So he wants these guys to get quicker. He wants them to be making more explosive plays in that room.
Yeah, well, you can do that if you can run the ball. And I also said last week, today, but I also said that those safeties got to get out of the box. You got to get them out. So they got to throw the ball vertical to be able to open up the running game, the short passing game, the tight ends on crossing routes, all that stuff. You can't do any of that if the safeties are in the box and you can't get the ball down the field. So TVD is very critical because I don't see Williams playing, and Ja'Cory Brown. He may even be better, but he's not the answer, not yet. So
not yet.
They really have a lot of work to do, but it's very specific work. The offensive line has to run, block, and pass protect. The play calling, I expect, will be a million times better because I can't see anybody worse. No offense, Mr. Gaddis, but that was horrible. And defensively, I think we're going to be better. I like the athleticism. We got young DBs. I hope they're healthy. Last year, there was a couple of games where the young kids got in and they got burned on the first play they were in there. I think Middle Tennessee State was one of them. One of those Curtis or one of the other guys got nailed right down the field. It was terrible. But, I expect better. I expect better attention to detail. And a little nothing thing, which is a big thing now. I think these kids relate to these coaches better than last year's coaches. That's important. I think they just turned these guys off. Because they didn't, and I'm also hoping, I'm sure every Kane fan is, that when they come out to start the game, they score in the first quarter. Yeah. Because that was horrible to watch. Down 17-0, 10-0. Get the ball, drive down the field, somebody screws up. And, I want to see these guys come out on fire and keep that intensity up. I want to see the old Kane football, but because I'm old.
What was do you have a because obviously we talked last week, you started really getting into the program in 82, right before they started winning national titles in 83. Do you have a specific Miami team that was your favorite, that was, for a lot of people it's 2001, right, and all the first round picks? Did you have a specific Miami team that you thought this could be the greatest college football team of all time or most entertaining you've ever watched?
Well, the funniest thing is that I thought the 86 team that lost to Penn State was the greatest team. I
thought so too. Yeah.
And I still think to this day that despite two losses in the 91 season, the year they beat Texas 46-3 in the Cotton Bowl, I have a hard time.
90, yeah.
I have a hard time believing anybody could have beaten the team that day because they were on fire.
Yeah.
But favorite team? I don't know. I think the 86 team that lost is my favorite team. The following year they won. I was at that game against Oklahoma, but that was a nail biter. It was 20-14, whatever it was. So I guess the 86 team, but I went home with a sour taste in my mouth. And of course, the 02 team that lost to Ohio State.
That was a great team.
Again, that was a great game, but we got robbed. Those are the two teams that should have won. We would have had 7 national titles, and I'd be proud to say any one of those teams. Although if you ask any one of these guys that played for 88 or 89 under Dennis, the 90 team, because all those guys are my friends, they say they're the greatest teteam ever. They got
for sure.
They lost to Notre Dame in one of those games and whatever. But, in fact, do you care if I bring somebody on, or you just want to know about it in advance? And
I wouldn't care at all.
I could bring on Leon and all these guys that could talk about the offensive line. Whatever you want.
I love Leon. Well, why don't we see if we can get somebody on with us next week?
I'll text them. He does a show. He does lunch with Leon
in Jacksonville, right?
Yeah. So, but we have to do it a little earlier. That's all.
I will adapt. I wouldn't do this for you, but for Leon Searcy, I would adapt my schedule.
Oh, okay.
You actually adapted for me today because I did, and I thank you for that because we're going to do a different time today. But I filled in for Joe Rose today. We'll be on for him for the rest of the week. Then I had Dawson and Guidry after that. So I appreciate you, Bruce Warner, for adapting your schedule to mine. That's how big time I am, sir.
Oh yeah. Oh well, how was it? Was it good? Was it fun?
It was a lot of fun. I get to work with Brian Monroe, who is he's going to be coming on this show, I think, again pretty soon. I've been bugging him enough. And also, I want to note for the people watching this later on this week, I think on Friday, we're going to bring Malik Rozier on because he told me, and I think he told his Twitter followers that he's been doing some work with Emory Williams, the incoming freshman quarterback. I'd love to pick Malik's brain on how those sessions are going. And later today, we'll be talking some recruiting with John Garcia. So it's just a full day of fun. Bruce Warner, you are the foundation of this day, my friend. Thank you so much for taking the time.
My pleasure. So let's hope we do it again every week. I told you I'll do it every week.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much. And guys, thank you so much for making Locked On Canes your first listen today. Make sure you make Locked On College Basketball your second listen. Hurricanes will open up their ACC tournament after the double bye, top seed in the conference, baby, on Thursday. And then we'll find out on Sunday the NCAA tournament seeding. But you can hear all about everything going on in college basketball with Andy Patton and Isaac Shade on Locked On College Basketball, newest show on the Locked On College Network, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your pods. And we'll talk to you guys again later on another episode of Locked On Canes, part of the awesome Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.